I mean, there probably is, but where? What's up, guys? Pencil here to do a breakdown and discussion on, why Nobara should have gotten more, but it's kind of hard to place her. And this one's gonna be a little bit complicated, a little bit roundabout, a little bit off the dome, a little bit off the dome. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Enemy, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do need to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Nobara Kugisaki is the female lead of JJK. I think that's pretty non-debatable of the main manga, I'd say. Obviously, in Zero, you just say it's Maki, because of course it's Maki. But while Maki does get a whole bunch of character time, a whole colony dedicated to her, I'd still say it's hard to call her the female lead of JJK, simply because she's not part of the main trio. She still is a legacy character, in all intents and purposes, from Zero, who ended up having a major role in JJK, just like Gojo is a legacy character from Zero, who had a very major role in JJK. And thusly, while I can call Gojo a main character, part of the main four, at least he is admittedly part of that main four, with the main trio. And naturally, Nobara and her return, and or lack thereof of a return for the longest time, definitely, it had its impact. And now, me personally, I've gone in depth on how I feel about her returning when she did, and the impact that she had upon her return. I think both were placed relatively well speaking for the power scaling and all that side of the narrative, like the power scaling, the timing, and honestly, just for the domino effect of Megami, Nobara, and Yuji being the last three to properly strike down Sukuna. I think that works wonderfully for what it is at the time, but I will not sit here and argue with you and say that Nobara should have been included more. She should have been there more, because we have a real big issue, especially in shonen manga, but realistically in fiction in general, where the female characters usually get done dirty. And if you've forgotten, as I have many a time before, don't worry, I'm here to remind you, Nobara Kugisaki had her last appearance as a pseudo-living, semi-sentient character, as she lay there bleeding out from the I was about to say gigantic, gargantuan hole in her face in chapter 126. Do you know when she reappeared as her and not just, an innocuous flashback of Yuji's well-placed fears? Yeah, chapter 267. Think about that. 126, 267. Now, I ain't the best at math, but I'm pretty darn sure 141 chapters is a real, and I mean real long time to remove your female lead from the manga. That's actually kind of crazy. Now, is it the craziest thing in general for JJK or really any piece of fiction to remove a major or main character from its run for a while? No, not at all. Even in JJK, obviously, the biggest example is the big man himself. Satoru Gojo is also gone for a real long stretch of the narrative. In fact, I should have done that before I started recording. I don't know. Who's gone for longer? Is it? I feel like it has to be Gojo, even though, but maybe it is though, but I'm not actually sure. 126 is 141 chapters. I forget how long it is from Gojo's sealing to his actual return in 221. I think 80. I think Gojo does have more, because he's in the 88. He's sealed pre 100s, and he gets out post 100s. Meanwhile, Nobara, she is over the 100 range, but I don't know off the top of my head. Someone correct. Maybe though 88 to 221. I feel like maybe Nobara is gone longer than Gojo. That actually made it crazy. But still, JJK's already done it. With Gojo Satoru himself, it shows that you can definitely remove a character from the narrative and still let them have their impact. In fact, I'd still say, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Satoru Gojo is the biggest thing JJK has ever produced and will be the biggest thing JJK ever produced. As a guy who has characters that he likes more than Satoru Gojo, I will not sit here and try to deny or pretend that the impact of this man isn't giga-gargantuan. It's so gargantuan, he's bigger than the other figure I actually own. So legitimately, his impact is huge, but he is a main character that was taken out for a majority of the manga. And while Flashback Kaisen would definitely trick you into believing that Yuji well, not Yuji, that Gojo was around a lot more post his sealing. Not really, or was really around more during his sealing. He really wasn't. He was barely mentioned and barely shown in panels or flashbacks about his sealing. Like, there's very slight panels and references to him because we focus a lot on other characters but Gojo during his sealing period. It's only after he's unsealed and after he dies we get a whole bunch of time with him in flashbacks. But, actually, that's JJK. There's another popular, I'd say in quotation marks, series that I've read that has its main character, like its titular character, disappear for nearly 200 chapters? I want to say, like nearly 200 chapters. But of course, that series ended up running like 586 chapters long, so like obviously 200 chapters in the grand scheme of things isn't much, but still, that's a big chunk. So you can do it, but Nobara Kugisaki she doesn't really, how do I put it? She doesn't really get what Gojo got, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, in terms of narrative impact, timing, all of that, in spite of them both being in similar roles, as in main character, while Nobara is mainly introduced after, and it's not a legacy character, still, she didn't really get much. So I'm personally in the camp that she deserved more, especially considering how pivotal she ended up being with her big clutch final swing in chapter 267. Like I have said it in other videos, in shorts, everywhere else, if she does not show up here, Yuji dies. Everybody dies. Of course, as people pointed out, that is a narrative contrivance. Sugino could have just taken longer to get his curse technique back. He could have simply get punched again by Yuji while he doesn't activate his domain expansion here. He could have decided to not heal his brain. There are a bunch of different ways, but still, in this moment, at this time, for the sake of the narrative and the character writing and the plot up to this point, and Sugino specifically losing to the bonds of people versus winning or losing to one individual, yeah, it all works on that level. But of course, I think Nobara deserved more. But I've run into an immediate issue, and I know Flame has an answer to this issue because he literally has a what if about Nobara surviving or dodging Mahito's attack. So, like, legitimately, there are people out there, and this is why I reach out the hand to you. Where do you put it? Because, like, I can write a what if, and I probably will. Once again, now that JJK is over and I have the full thing, I'm gonna write what ifs galore. Like, if people are wondering, for the rare overlap between my MHA fans and my JJK fans, if you're wondering where it happened and where is what if Midoriya was confident, oh, it's going to be fully written now. Now that the series is over, I'm finally getting to those last couple parts. I'm working. But that's the same thing with JJK. I'll write a what if thinking about it. But my issue is, if I have the manga as I have it now, 271 chapters of juicy, cursed goodness, where do I slide into more Nobara? Because not necessarily the fact that you couldn't just power creep her, not necessarily the fact that you couldn't write a character arc, not necessarily even the fact that she'd be boring to follow. I think all three of those things are false, and you could make it work in many different ways. But the issue is, where do you put her? Like legitimately, where do you incorporate this character? Because remember, every single major character, and even some minor characters like Akane Kinji, did get whole sections of the plot to them. Whole thick, juicy, gargantuan sections of plot. We had 2 fights for Hikari. We had him against Higuruma, and we had him, not Higuruma, we had him against Charles, and then we had him against Kashimo. We even had that filthy, disgusting, horrific, nasty, gargantuan creature panda versus Kashimo in this old backstory chapter. But that's the thing, we've already dedicated whole chunks of arcs to these characters. Now, did a lot of those end up mattering as much? I'm not gonna lie. Spoilers for the How Maki Did Against Sukuna video. It kind of whack. So, like, maybe Sakaji wasn't all that worth it. Maybe the whole Tokyo 2 colony, I'm pretty sure that was the one that Kashimo was in. Tokyo 2 colony versus Kori, maybe wasn't all that worth it, considering how bad Kashimo got done. Maybe Mega B versus Roger wasn't worth it. But even then, I still think we need that. Like, I'm trying to think, for the characters, to be the characters that we have them as now, what would I cut? What would I specifically go in with a scalpel and be like, okay, I'm going to remove this, and then chop it out, and then put in more Nobara content? Because if we're following the basic structure of the Culling Games, we cannot have her simply following Yujiri Todori. Those are the same person. We cannot simply have her following Yuji and Megumi because of the whole teleportation rule. So she needs to be put somewhere random. We aren't going to stick her in the Tengen fight. and then the fight for Tengen, because that would be absolutely insane and ludicrous. Though you could argue she'd have some like funny things, like if they get some of Kenny's blood and then got it to Nobara, she could have hypothetically resident. But like, still, not gonna put her there because that just doesn't make any sense. We can't put her in Sendai. We can't just pull a Miwa and randomly drop her in the middle of Sendai. She'd die. We can't put her up in Tokyo 2 because she'd randomly Kashimo fought her, or she'd have to be tagging along with Akari, which also wouldn't really make sense unless you once again go with the idea that Kashimo gets some blood knocked off of him, and then Nobara randomly residences him, and then bada bing, bada boom. That's the thing, right? Where do you put her? I can't put her in Sakurajima Colony. Heck, I'm sure Kamo even exists in Sakurajima Colony. Like, it's the issue of, okay, I either cut out stuff or I add her. And technically, when I think about it, I guess, legally speaking, her ability kind of works. Because it's a rate, like, she doesn't have to fight. Like, she doesn't have to fight close range. I'm trying to, like, think logistically. Luckily enough for Nobara, her active engagement in a battle doesn't necessarily have to be the case. She can just be following somebody around, but still, it doesn't really make sense. And I'm not sure what I think maybe you could. Actually, and this would be something. But you'd have to go full fanfic mode. That's the thing. And, you know, I'm something of a fanfic author myself, you know. So, like, obviously it would be the first time going full fanfic mode. But if you were to take a chapter and a chunk out of every single existing Culling Games fight, you could give Nobara her own. Because there are 5 major Culling Games fights. Or 5 major characters who get their own little section of the Culling Games arc. It is Yuji, it is Megami, it is Yuta, it is Maki, and it is Akari. So they all have like 5 to 7 chapter runs, not including any of their sub fights or anything like that. So if you remove the helicopter part from Yuji, that's 1 chapter, if not 1.5. You remove the initial build up to Reggie and his crew, maybe just make it just Reggie, or like remove the random claw guy that Megami drops off a cliff with a new way. Then that's another chapter you can save. Then for Yuta, but then again, I'm not gonna lie, Yuta's Sendai run is super streamlined. Like, I'm not exactly sure what you would remove. You remove, I'd say remove Druve, but Druve was already kind of removed by the manga. So, like, I'm not sure what you would really steal from Yuta, because you can't remove the Ryu portion. You can't remove the Uro portion. I mean, maybe you could cut Kuro? Because Kuro's mad irrelevant. But I think ultimately showing a strong curse spirit in the Culling Games is also kind of important, because no other colony other than Sakurajima deals with that, but I wouldn't say that Kuro is a strong curse spirit in the same way that Naoya is a strong curse spirit, because they're really different types. Like, Kuro is a special grade curse spirit, but Naoya was a special grade vengeful curse spirit, which wraps up Maki's arc really, really nice, and like leads to the whole week. It's like, I'm not sure, you can't really remove Kuro if you want to keep things flowing a certain way and show off that side of the Culling Games. So it's hard to remove anything from Sendai. I think Sendai is like the one case where Nobara's gonna have to suck it up and cry. Like, I don't think she's gonna get extra chapter from that. And then for Hikaru, you can cut out all the Panda stuff. And you cut out Charles. Like, realistically, what did Precon do against Suguna? Barely anything. You can cut out that. You may be able to get like 2 or 3 chapters from Hikaru. Honestly. Well, kids all know. But then again, how do you show him getting jackpot for the first time? I mean, you can just say it happened off screen. That'd be a crazy reveal. That just happened completely off screen if we didn't know anything about Hikaru and his abilities. So maybe you don't. Just remove the Panda stuff. Remove the Panda stuff, and you can get a whole chapter and a half. And then you have that first chapter and a half from Yuji, and then you have that next chapter and a half. So you get, like, technically, you get 3 chapters from that. And then Sakurajima, once again, Sakurajima is weirdly tight too. I guess you could remove chunks of the Daido and Mio stuff. You could just have them appear with no explanation. But that, once again, it feels like it's a little bit rough. But then if you take out that 5P section, you give her her own 5 chapters, you would have to explore something about Nobara. Because ultimately, that's what a lot of the Sendai fights are about, right? Like, as cool as the Sendai fights are, or not the Sendai fights, the Culling Games fights are, as, like, you know, simple pieces of conflict, as all JJK battles are. They're typically all very, very good. Even, like, a random Grasshopper Curses versus Yuji are straight gas and clear a lot of series in terms of artistic and fight entertainment. You would have to explore a specific element of Nobara's character. Because, like, for Yuji, his Culling Games fight was exploring his grief and his guilt over the action Sukuna took in Shibuya and his inability to stop Sukuna. For Mengen Fushiguro, it was the idea of him delving into the darkness for the sake of Samuki and being pulled out from that darkness right before he fell too deep in by the very same person he was falling into the darkness for. For Yuta Okotsu, it was experiencing the love of battle for the first time ever, realistically. He always fought for his friends, now he fought a little bit for himself. That theme ability does get pretty much immediately cooked or lost right after the fact. Like, we never see Yuta enjoying the idea of battle again. But then again, the whole arc does literally say just this once, so I guess Yuta's is fine. So yeah, maybe you don't need it. Maybe you don't need it because Yuta doesn't have it. Like, it's my one complaint with Yuta. He enjoys battle for that one time, and then that's it. Like, he kind of just goes back to regular Yuta. That's fine. Once again, I'll talk about Yuta and like why I find the character a tiny bit boring. I don't need to fit like I like. I know I have many people who have Yuta as their favorite character, and they're like, what? But don't worry, I'll go more in depth in a separate video about Yuta specifically. So like Yuta's fine character-wise, but then again, Sakurajima Colony is all about Maki exploring herself, and realistically, Tokyo 2 Colony with Kashimo is all to set up both Kashimo and Akari as characters. Now the sad thing is, they don't go anywhere. So once again, kind of like the Yuta thing, maybe you could just completely not give Nobara anything. But unlike those two, then again, Maki's the weird exception in that as well. That's the thing. There's so many weird exceptions in JJK, and not like haha funny meme exception. No, like how do you do it? Because you could take out those 5 chapters, give Nobara her own Culling Games run. You could have her. You can incorporate her. That's the thing. Now that I think about it, I was gonna go out of this video and be like, you cannot incorporate Nobara anywhere. This is crazy. This is dumb. This is stupid. I have no idea how Flame's gonna do it, but Flame's gonna figure out a way because Flame is that guy. Like I'm gonna go through like this entire long discussion on how you can't do it. You can, but would Gege want to? And could you structure an entire... You could. Because we got to see Nobara fight solo. It just isn't that common. And in fact, there would be an interesting way to explore. What would you explore with her character? I think the interesting thing you could explore with Nobara's character, if you're going to give her own Culling Games colony, and if we're focusing on that, if we're going with the initial... Not the initial 3, but the first 2, and then the 4th, or no, actually the 5th, because it goes... Yuji, Megami, Yuta, Hakari, and then Maki. Maki's the final Sendai tussle, or the final Culling Games conflict. If you were to slot Nobara in, where would you slot her in, and what would you have the character cover? Okay, I think ultimately Nobara is a character heavily based around the idea of identity and running away from those that make her feel like they're suppressing her identity, and ultimately identifying with something that's much more widely believed, much more popular, much more unique. That's a lot of the portion of the character. That's why she likes shopping for name brand things. That's why she's looking for money. She's trying to get them bands up. She's trying to be free of her small hometown because she wants to be in the big life. She wants to explore that part of the world. Once again, not the biggest Nobara fan out there. Haven't actually probably reread the chapter, so I probably need to go and do that. But with it being the case, that seems like a big portion of her character. And if we're going to take out those 5 chapters, we're going to cut, which sounds so crazy, but if we're going to cut and really bring it back out, then I think we'd have to explore a character like that. We would have to show a character who walked down Nobara's path and ultimately found that certain things were good about it, but certain things were bad. Kind of like how I keep saying Sendai, I mean, this is my favorite Culling Games fight. I ain't gonna lie, it's my favorite Culling Games fight. So when I think Culling Games, I think of Sendai. But, wow, that's crazy. I don't like Yuta that much, but, well, no, I still like Yuta. He's just not my favorite. Because I feel like Yuta, he gets, like, a lot of favoritism in the fandom, for good reason. Gege loves Yuta a lot. But still, he's not my favorite. But, I love Sendai. Sendai's goated. For Yuta, in fact, maybe I need to sit down and just think about what I think about Yuta. Maybe I am just hating. Am I a hater? Am I a Yuta hater? Oh, I love Sendai so much. I need to talk about why I love Sendai so much properly. Because every time I talk about Sendai, it's typically in regards to scaling and me believing that Ryu and Uro are better than a lot of people say Ryu and Uro are. So I'll have to think about that separately. But for Nobara specifically, it would have to be someone who reflects Nobara and her hypothetical journey and seeing how that plays back. I think that's how you do it. Because I don't want Nobara to kind of just have like a kind of empty reflection or a kind of empty ending. If we're going to reincorporate this character back into the narrative, I do legit want them to be reincorporated back into the narrative and have them explored just like our other 3 main characters have been explored. Satoru Gojo had his whole flashback arc, and then he had his little exploration not even going to say after, during the entire Gojo Suzuki battle. We did have that. For Manga Fushiguro, we didn't get much. I ain't going to say in capital. We didn't get much. But we did have some character illustration with Megami in his own Culling Games fight and beyond that. For Yuji Todori, the whole story is about Yuji Todori's character growth. So I don't want Nobara to have a Hakari style fight or even a Yuta style fight where she just gets one moment of something and then it immediately goes away the next time the character appears. I would want to give her something substantial, and I think tackling the idea that's raised in a flashback chapter right before her removal from the narrative. I'm going to put death in quotation marks, but let's be real. Her removal from the narrative for over 140 chapters. I think ultimately the best way to do that is to have someone either incarnated or new, who lived Nobara's past. But once again, I think if we're going to truly fit into Nobara, it's okay to have it not be a reincarnated sorcerer. In fact, it's fine to have it be a new sorcerer. You could have it be one of Nobara's previous idols. Heck, realistically, how crazy would it have been if it was this girl? Once again, we don't know where she moved off. Where did she move off to? Something crazy now, something bad. Oh. Senpai. Blah, 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 blah. I moved to the boonies in my second year of junior high because your family's working on. My mom's still getting stuff in spirituality. She's quite the personality, to say the least. I met two girls. I'm about 7 years younger than me. The one called Nobara really took me. I'm an only child. She's just me. She's cute. I made black tea for them. First graders. But they're disappointed. I forget where she ended up moving. But, let me see. Growing up, looking back here. Nobara called the secret of someone's house. He came here. Sorry was a girl who moved to the village after I did. She was always greedy and unexpected smiles on her face. At home, Nobara changed it for me. So she became more refined. Sorry, house vandalized. Gosh darn it, I'm legit. I'm sorry, I'm refreshing myself on the chapter right now. I'm trying to think. Soon after Sorry moved out of the village, why don't I say goodbye? So yeah, I don't know where she moved, but ultimately, it could literally be Sayori. Make her incarnate sorcerer, or someone like that, someone who Nobara would look up to in most conventional circumstances. But then have it flip, where ultimately Nobara sees both the beauty and the beast of that scenario. You don't even have to off this sorcerer. That's the thing. Yuta didn't off Earl. Or Ryu. Unfortunately, my client's King Ryu got off anyway. But still, and then Earl just didn't show up again. So that was a waste. But just like Hikari didn't actually off Kashimo, and just like Yudi didn't actually off Higuruma, you could have another colony where the character doesn't actually have to die. If anything, they could get redeemed. And if you have them being a new, fresh, out-the-box sorcerer who just happened to be walking on a path that Nobara wanted to walk down, but at the same time ended up seeing the world differently than Nobara saw it, having Nobara beat them and overcome them and realize the flaws in her current desires, her current mentality, then you could have this woman hit all the harder. Where it's not just Yuji, but also Nobara taking up that sort of guiding role, understanding it, being free, and realizing that ultimately she needs to be responsible for guiding, as she was the one given the proper chance to interact with people properly. You know what I'm talking? Like, you could do it. Where before, man, that does make it worse now. I was going to come in and defend Gege. I was really going to come in and defend Gege and say, you really can't do it. If you want the series to be 271 chapters, if you're trying to jump mandates, it's yada, yada, yada. Gege wasn't feeling well. But, like, you could do it. And I'm literally just taking 5 chapters out from the game. You can plug her into a bunch of scenes, have her sort of be a talking head. The only thing you would lose is obviously the surprise of Nobara's return and her efficacy in chapter 267, but I think based on how the common fandom, or the common fan and the fandom as a whole reacted to that, I think that'd be a sacrifice many are willing to make. And also, you would lose any sort of bait, and any sort of bait of her return, any feelings associated with that, such as with the introduction with Angel. She would be there the entire time. There'd be no reason for her not to be, if they all went into the same colony and then had their own unique fights. So that's a little bit rough. That's a little bit unfortunate. And obviously you'd have to somehow incorporate her into the whole hunting for Higuruma plot. But still, I think you could make it work. You could have her have a character journey. You could continue it based on the backstory we did get. You could even give her the eye patch earlier if you want. You could do it. You could incorporate Nobara Kugisaki into the narrative of JJK more. You're going to have to cut some stuff if you want to keep it exactly 271 chapters. But you could do it. And the story, this is a rare case where I think, well, not a rare case, commonly I'd say, the more time you expose your main characters to actually being characters and allowing them to develop, and not just, removing them for a large chunk of the narrative, typically the better. And this is the case where it would undeniably be better for Nobara Kugisaki to have not been removed and just have the story built to function around her. Just a little bit. It doesn't have to take the spotlight too much away from Yuji or anything like that. But considering how JJK is written, I think Nobara could have easily been slotted in. You could have easily had a Culling Game arc villain that could have worked for her. You could have easily brought that Culling Game arc villain back, built him into the narrative one way, shape, or form. You could have done a lot. So that's a little unfortunate now that I think about it. But that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree with me? Do you think if you were to cut out certain chunks of the Culling Games, or even cut out other completely different chapters, like you could cut out military plotline, you could cut out a couple different things, and fit Nobara in with her own little arc and have her own little character story, how would you write a character story? How would you write Nobara's villain? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. If you got all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave patch eye. Oh yes. You know how the word eye patch is, eye patch? Put patch eye patch backwards in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell. Make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. You get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reactions to any of the series I happen to review, ad variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below where you can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dag of the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Zara, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Brandon Payne, G Prosper, and Glacier XZ. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Midnight Lord 21, Kevin Encarnacion, Sean, Igneo Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 members: Fine and Austin Wimberly, A Uchiha, along with Yuki Ally. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 members: Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 patrons: Overlord Zero, Joaquin Munoz, and Idem Okami. And I'd like to give a final, giga, legendary, superhuman, beyond the bounds of reality thank you to our That Guy with a Pencil tier patron. Okay. Calvin Elder.